Hey! Hi! How you doing? This is the Gamertron, and welcome back to the Gamertron Show. Alrighty, I need to provide some context and level with you all. This is a patron-requested video, and the particular video game that was requested to be made a video on by my lovely patron, Rainbow Hawk, was also gifted by him. The game being, well, you've read the title of the video, Divinity Original Sin 2. I have not played the first Divinity Original Sin. You're probably wondering where I'm going with all this, just hang on. You see, in the initial process of preparing to make this video, I was worried. Worried that this video would turn out to be 15 to 20 minutes of me just repeating, hey, this is a great game, but I don't like it. I expected that the script for this video and my impressions of the game itself would solely be based on how Divinity Original Sin 2 is an objectively well-made game, a well-made product, but I personally would not like it, would not find it enjoyable, and why is that? Well, you see, I don't like video games with a top-down perspective, unless they're real-time strategy games with a top-down perspective, so that's strike one. This game is quite obviously a sequel, so I expected to be lost when it came to the story. That's strike two, but strike three, the biggest and baddest of them all. The game has a turn-based combat system, and there are not enough words in the English dictionary or the dictionaries of any other language to describe how much I loathe turn-based combat systems. For me, they are the most boring and immersion-breaking form of combat gameplay ever implemented in a video game. I think turn-based combat was a mistake. Next to dating sims and anime. So going into Divinity Original Sin 2, a game with a top-down perspective, that's not a real-time strategy game, a game that's a sequel, so I'm expecting to be lost when it comes to the story, and the game has a turn-based combat system to boot. I was expecting to hate this game. I mean, it was the worst combination possible. How could I not dread playing the game? My least favorite player perspective. The game's a sequel, so I'm expecting to be lost when it comes to the story, and of course, oh god, I hate turn-based combat so much. However, I am a man of my word, and I promised that this video would be made. I promised that I would play this game. It is a patron request after all. I honor my very generous backers on Patreon. So of course I was always going to bite the bullet and play Divinity Original Sin 2. It was only a matter of time. So after playing the game and dumping over 30 hours into it, imagine my shock that this video game I was expecting to hate but praise for objective quality. Imagine my shock when I play the game and I'm actually enjoying myself. I actually really like the game. Divinity Original Sin 2 did what I thought to be impossible. It made me tolerate turn-based combat in a video game. Don't get me wrong, turn-based combat can still go die in a fire, but Divinity Original Sin 2 is such a good game. It's got so many easily lovable qualities that I was, and still am, willing to put up with and tolerate and get through the turn-based combat to experience all the other stuff it has to offer. On top of that, this game is ridiculously replayable and pro-consumer to boot. So, let's get into it and let me share with you my thoughts, feelings, and opinions on Divinity Original Sin 2. But, and this is a big, important but, I want to emphasize that this is not a full, complete review. This is more of a first impressions type video. Yes, I know, I have over 30 hours in the game, but Divinity Original Sin 2 is such a massive fucking game, with so much to do and see and explore and replay for completely different experiences and outcomes. 30 hours in Divinity Original Sin 2 is child's play. You can easily invest hundreds of hours into Divinity Original Sin 2 and still not experience the breadth of content and options this game has to offer. If I wanted to do a full-fledged review for Divinity Original Sin 2 and not this first impressions, well, you wouldn't see that video for months. And I'd probably have to dump 200 to 300 hours into the game to be even somewhat prepared for a full-fledged review. So I just want to emphasize, This is not a full-fledged review. I have not beaten the game. These are first impressions based off 30 plus hours of playing the game. Alright, enough lollygagging, let's get into the game itself, eh? Now, upon launching Divinity Original Sin 2, the main menu itself immediately impresses, with a plethora of content and options to pick from. Before we get into the meat of the game, that is the story campaign, I just have to give praise and showcase all the other content Divinity Original Sin 2 has to offer. First up, we have the option for multiple player profiles, which is surprisingly a rare feature nowadays, so it's awesome to see it implemented here. The game has a built-in mods manager? Holy shit, that's even rarer than the multiple player profiles feature. Talk about keeping your PC player base in mind. Then we have the fully realized and implemented arena mode, which for you lunatics out there who actually enjoy turn-based combat, arena mode is just that, the turn-based combat for solo PvE and PvP play, with a plentiful variety of maps to play on. And after that, we have the Game Master mode, which is, and I'm not fucking with you, I'm being totally honest, this is real, you can make your own, share your own, and play other people's custom-made campaigns in single player and in multiplayer. Let me emphasize and really spell this out for you. Next to the main story campaign, which is massive, and worth the price of admission alone, we also have in addition to that, a fully fleshed out and realized solo PvE co-op and PvP multiplayer mode focusing on the turn-based combat implemented, alongside an entire game mode and feature that is totally based around community-generated content. Creating your own campaigns, solo or in co-op, and playing other people's campaigns that they've made solo and co-op. The developers of the game, Larian Studios, they didn't need to do this. They were under no obligation to do this. The main story campaign is already so massive and contains so much content within it, and it can also be played completely in co-op, that the price tag for the game was already justified. But Larian Studios decided to fully embrace their community and go full pro consumer. I mean, this is so much content, this is so much replayability. And keep in mind, we're just on the goddamn main menu just scrolling through the contents and features. And immediately before even playing the game, it leaves a positive impression. But it gets even better when you start the story campaign. Upon entering the custom character creator, you are immediately overwhelmed and overflowing with options. Multiple different races to play as, all of which can be played male or female. A simply stupid amount of starter classes. And you are not locked into a particular class. You can level up your character and focus on a variety of different skill trees and playstyles. You are not locked down and restricted. There are so many options and methods for customizing your character. Both statistically and cosmetically, it's absurd! For example, you can play as a female undead lizard wizard. Again, the options this game provides are just crazy. We're not even done yet with character customization. There are also pre-built, established companion characters with backstories that you can play as, and all have unique personal story quests in the main story campaign that drastically affects the entire story and all the characters around them. It's crazy! There's so much fucking detail, so much customization, so many options, so much replayability. It's insane! If you play the main story campaign as a human character, it's going to be a drastically different experience to playing the game as a dwarf or a lizard or an elf or an undead. But all this is just wonderful toppings on top of the real true meat of Divinity Original Sin 2, and that's the story and characters and how it's all magnificently well written and spectacularly voice acted and delivered. And that is what got me hooked to the game and playing it for so many hours and willing to put up with the turn-based combat. Because the story, the writing, the characters, the voice acting, the dialogue is fucking masterclass. But then again, maybe I really shouldn't be surprised by this, since the developer of the game, Larian Studios, are the same guys that made one of my favorite video games of all time, Divinity Dragon Commander, and the story and characters in that game were excellent. And that quality has been maintained, if not surpassed, after all these years. Admittedly, Divinity Original Sin 2 is filled to the brim with cliches and tropes from the high fantasy genre. genre. But there's nothing necessarily wrong with cliches and tropes as long as they're well written and actually complement the story and the characters and not hinder them, not take away from them. The world, the lore, the backstory of Divinity Original Sin 2 is all so well thought out and detailed that all the noticeable fantasy cliches and tropes don't matter because something of value is done with them. There's well thought out reasons and rules for how this high fantasy world exists, and it's very immersive and engaging. All of it aided by just how well written the dialogue and the voice acting are for every single character, especially the pre-built companions. These characters rival the same quality of well-developed characters from other fantasy RPGs like Dragon Age, The Witcher. I mean, this is just real good shit. I mean, real good shit. If you are a sucker for compelling and interesting and engaging story and characters, well, my guys, my girls, Divinity Original Sin 2 is a treat. I mean, in my 30 plus hours of playing the game, I can't even pick a favorite quest or favorite character. I've loved them all, they're all so good. Ifan, Losa, Sibyl, the Red Prince, Beast. I know if you love fantasy RPGs, you're gonna fall in love with these characters. I know I have. Before we move on to gameplay, I'll quickly mention the graphics. The game is obviously beautiful. While admittedly, I do believe some character models look way better than others, in terms of detail and texture work, the special effects look incredible, look amazing. And the environments, holy shit, the environments in this game, beautiful, absolutely breathtaking. Despite having a top-down perspective, Larian Studios did not shy away, was not lazy when it came to meticulously designing and intricately detailing the environments and this world to make it just look so alive. And just pretty, it's really pretty to look at. Finally, we come to gameplay. We'll talk about the half I like, and the other half, you know I'm dreading. So, there's the passive real-time gameplay when you're not in combat, which is really good. You see, just about every situation you are presented with in Divinity Original Sin 2 is a puzzle. Main quests, side quests, dialogue options, solving environmental puzzles, hell, just getting from point A to point B. It's never as simple as it seems. There are multiple outcomes, multiple solutions, multiple choices, and you are not restricted. You can get creative with magical abilities and skills, manipulating physics, and utilizing and even combining all the different elemental types. Fire, water, poison, etc. Divinity Original Sin 2 encourages and rewards player experimentation and creativity. Some of my favorite moments from playing the game so far is just saving my game and experimenting, making different choices on different situations. Seeing the outcome, seeing the result, and then loading my save again to try something different. To see how different characters respond to different dialogue choices. What if I can avoid combat altogether by talking my way out? Or perhaps using abilities like teleportation to avoid enemies altogether? Just the pure freedom at the player's disposal. The game is not rigid, it is not restrictive. You can make mistakes, you can fuck up and live with the consequences. Or you can invent some crazy scheme or plan to get something that you want and have it succeed. Some examples include buying all the items you want from a trader but wanting your gold back, so you kill the guy you just traded with so you get all the items you wanted and get your gold back after killing them. Using an invisibility potion or spell to rob people from right under their noses. Or perhaps manipulating the environment, leaving a bunch of elemental traps on the ground before beginning a battle, or to light enemies on fire with oil you left on the ground that you'd ignite with a fire spell, or throwing a water balloon to make a puddle of water that you can then use an ice spell on to freeze enemies. Again, just the amount of options and creativity and player expression and choice and freedom at your disposal, it's intoxicating. The replay value is through the goddamn roof. First with all the features and content, the absurd amount of character customization, the multiple different choices you can make in quests and have them have completely crazy different outcomes, and of course just the built-in game mechanics and the physics and the elements and all the manipulation you can play around with. It's good. It's really good. It's a lot of fun. It's addicting in a sense, just continuously experimenting and trying new things and just seeing all the crazy outcomes. So that's everything I love about Divinity Original Sin 2, and now we come to the turn-based combat. Now, I'll admit right off the bat, I'm massively biased, so I cannot honestly tell you whether this is an objectively good turn-based combat system. I can admit that it has depth behind it, and strategy, For sure, absolutely. I can admit that there's a diverse cast of foes, a huge, simply huge array of different abilities, buffs, debuffs, powerful attacks, everything you can do, your enemies can do, and vice versa. The combat maintains the same goal and mindset of everything else about Divinity Original Sin 2. Player freedom, creativity, strategy, replayability, for sure, that's all there. I still can't stand turn-based combat systems. I tolerate Divinity Original Sin 2's combat system because the story is so good, the writing, the characters, the dialogue is so good, the passive gameplay where you're exploring the environments, collecting loot, solving puzzles, that's all real good. I avoid combat like the plague in this game. If I can avoid combat, if there's a dialogue option, or a way to sneak by, or anything like that, I will take it. I cannot stress enough how much I find turn-based combat to be absolutely boring, a complete chore. Again, that's just me, that's just my personal preferences, the kind of gamer I am. I can't speak for the people who love turn-based combat. I can't tell you whether this is an objectively good turn-based combat system or not. I can only say that if you're interested in Divinity Original Sin 2 and you like turn-based combat, what I can tell you objectively is that you have a lot of options. You have a lot of options and mechanics at your disposal. It is absolutely, most certainly, a thinking man's game. But for me, waiting for all the different enemies to make their moves, taking their turns, and for some reason being able to pull off so many more abilities and actions than you can on a single turn, boring and frustrating, and it just shatters my immersion in the game when everybody's just standing still. Everyone's got their weapons drawn, fireballs in hand, and everyone's just staring each other down, waiting for someone to make a move. One at a time, turn by turn. The story and the characters, the environments, the world is so immersive, and then you get into combat, it's like, I can't wait to get this over with and get back to the good stuff. But despite my displeasure of the turn-based combat, everything else about the game is so goddamn good. Story, progression, customization, replayability, content, features, just everything. Everything around that one thing I don't like is so good I'm willing to tolerate and put up with the turn-based combat so I can keep progressing and seeing all the other amazing stuff the game has to offer. Despite having over 30 hours in the game, I'm not even halfway done the story. The game is so huge and massive and has so much for you to do and see. Hell, just a single playthrough of Divinity Original Sin 2 I don't think is fully experiencing the game. So far from what I see, from what I feel, Divinity Original Sin 2 is meant to have multiple playthroughs with different characters and seeing all the different story choices and directions, unique to each of the individual companion characters or your own unique customized character. Divinity Original Sin 2 is such a good video game that it did the impossible for me. It made me tolerate a gameplay style that I hate, because everything else about it is so good, so well made, so filled with love and passion from the developers, and so pro-consumer for the gamers and customers, that I must agree with the consensus around Divinity Original Sin 2. This game is a treasure, a gem, an instant classic. Is the game going to be for everybody? Hell no. But if you like this style, this type of game, then it's a must-have, a must-play. And those are my thoughts, feelings, and opinions, and first impressions on Divinity Original Sin 2. I hope you liked the video. If you did indeed like the video in any way, shape, or form, please be sure to hit the like button. The like button helps you, helps me, helps everybody involved in the video. If you hit the like button, please leave a comment in the comment section down below. Every comment again, comments, please leave a comment. What are your thoughts, feelings, opinions on Divinity Original Sin 2? I'd love to hear them in the comment section down below. If you want to help out and support this video, then please share it on social media, Twitter and Facebook. If you want to help out and support me directly, well, there's always Patreon. Anyways, guys, that's been a video, and I'll see you all later.